Hi, this is Lauren.
And this is Holland.
And welcome to the Sex Ed for You podcast.
This is the podcast for people who want to date and have great sex that is safe, fun, and enjoyable.
We aim to empower our listeners to make informed decisions that lead to values-based living. I am Lauren. I am a certified holistic sexuality educator, and I work here in Central Virginia and around the world with individuals and couples and parents.
And I'm Holland, and I am the Director of Operations here at Sex Ed for You, and this is our lovely podcast, Sex Ed for You, where research meets reality. Today we are talking about relationships and whether or not you should stay in them.
Juicy. You know, it's interesting that we picked to talk about this, and then it's like everything in my life has all led to the same thing. So synchronicity. I was just listening to the Sex and Psychology podcast with Dr. Justin Lee Miller. Shout out. If y'all don't already subscribe and listen to this podcast, it's fantastic. And his guest, and one of the most recent ones, was talking about this dilemma of living in this social media world where we can see all these like quips about health and well-being and partnerships and rules and red flags and green flags, and how it can almost become paralyzing. And we can think if we're not following those rules, if our relationship doesn't look like that we're failing in some way, shape, or form. And then you and I got into a conversation about why did the Partnership podcast ever begin, my OG podcast with my partner, Trey. And I said it was because in the work that we do individually with clients, I started to see our sweet, incredible clients thinking that they were failing in some way, shape, or form when it would take a while to implement a new tool, or change wouldn't happen immediately, or they would change, but then, in a couple weeks, they'd revert back to a little bit of an old behavior, or they'd squabble with a partner, they'd get their feelings hurt, or they'd hurt somebody's feelings. And I would love for us to talk about on this podcast, I don't know, kind of how this came up organically with us in the car the other day. And this line of, here are some great questions to consider. And Helen's favorite word, the nuance of it all. This is not a prescription. We want this podcast to like help you have safe, enjoyable, delicious sex. And we want it to lead to like your values-based living. Not like, hey, this is how to have relationships like Lauren and Holland. First of all, that's hilarious because we're just people.
We're just people
who make mistakes all the time.
And like even with the long form content like we make with podcasts, with YouTube videos, with how much we're on the internet, we're chronically online. But
so much.
Even with that, everything is taken out of context.
Everything.
This is not, you are not seeing all of the picture, just like you're not saying all of the picture for the Instagram reels or any of the YouTube shorts or anything that you're saying online. There is a lot of missing context, and you can't get into the nuance as deeply as you want to on these social media platforms, but it's hard as the consumer to see that side of it, and it can be really frustrating.
Which is why I think we will always be saying on this podcast, these opinions that we share are based upon our research, and we encourage every single solitary listener to go do your own, to surround yourself, read more, gobble up stuff. I understand the joy of limited information, of having Holland and I create some content for you. Great. And it's like the tip of the iceberg.
It really is. And that's why we offer y'all things like worksheets, because we want you to be able to dig into your perspective on what we're talking about. Yes. We don't just want you to take what we're saying as like the Bible, okay? We are not a religion. We are not a cult. We don't agree with that here. We want you to take what we say as a jumping off point for you to consider your life and your perspective and your desires and values and such. So, speaking of which, we actually will be having a worksheet at the end of this podcast. We'll give you the code, and it'll be downloaded in the show notes. So, take a look out for that.
So, what's so fun about Holland and my age gap is that I tend to have a lot of conversations with my peers about their long-term relationships. Holland is in a section of her life where folks are deciding if they want to continue into a long-term relationship, right? It's kind of either this like we should get married or we should break up type of season. What's been happening recently in the lives of humans?
In the lives of humans. Well, I have a lot of friends. I have lived a lot of places, worked a lot of environments, and been an all-around changing human for 23 years now. And like I've said on previous episodes of the podcast, I really like to keep people around that mean something to me. So I still have a lot of random connections to random people all over the world. And it's the most beautiful thing ever. And what I love most about a lot of these relationships is we have and maintain these relationships because we truly care for each other in a healthy friendship way. So not only am I nurturing these people nurture me. And it is a lovely symbiotic relationship. And I think symbiotic is the right one. Anyway.
I just know. Symbiotic is, it's amazing. Yay. It means this. Mutually beneficial.
Yay! Okay, as I said, I was worried. Anyway.
We've all done that where you say the word and you're like,
in editing, I'm going to take that out. Just kidding. Anyway, so in these lovely symbiotic relationships. But most recently, I've had a friend reach out to me who has been in a long-term relationship, a long-term partnership. They've talked about marriage. They've actually planned their proposal maybe a year or two from now. I don't remember. Anyway, they're just very open. They have a great relationship. The person that I know within the relationship is also bisexual. They're a very incredible human being. And they are just kind of wondering if this is what they want. And I think it's a beautiful time to start considering that because they've already had these conversations about marriage and proposing and met each other's families and are doing all these important steps. But I also love that we always talk about the relationship escalator. And with this person, I think that is something that would be a really good topic to consider. But as we know, very nuanced, very different relationship to relationship and person to person. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what it can look like to go through this journal prompt list that Lauren made of I don't know, do you want to be in this relationship? And also just what are some generally good themes that we should be seeing? What are some quote unquote red flags that we should be considering? Etc., etc.
For those not familiar with the relationship escalator concept, this was brought to us by those in the consensual and non-monogamy world, polyamory world. And it's so beautiful because it kind of blows up hierarchical models of the continuation of partnership as America has defined it, which is, started dating this person in college, ideally, right? And then by the end of college, you have a ring on your finger, and then you get married in the summer after college, and then you buy your first home, and then you have your first baby, and then you have, a dog, then your baby, then your second baby, then your third baby, then you're done, then you start saving for retirement, and you go on your once-a-year vacation. We were all painted some version of a picket fence life, right? This false American dream. And realizing that relationship escalators even exist is just step one. And it's so helpful because we don't need to be on them. I remember when my partner and I were together and then we got engaged and people would say, when's the wedding? We'd be like, I don't know. We are not in a rush. We are taking every step mindfully. And I'm a big proponent and believer in that at all times we're choosing partnership, but then we're never stuck anyway. We never should feel stuck. That is a possessive way to do relationships, or that is a entitled way to do relationships. And I don't like it. Agency is very important.
And it's also what I think keeps a lot of people from marriage, from commitment.
I agree.
Is the idea itself of being stuck, of not allowing yourself the agency and autonomy to decide whether or not you want or do not want that relationship in however long. That, I feel is the overarching theme of people who are anti-marriage is I don't know if I'm going to want you forever. You don't.
Or I don't know if I want the 2.5 kids.
Right.
And the house and the mortgage and the passing schedules where I don't really see you.
It's everything that comes along with it.
Yes. I just started watching the new Ashley Madison documentary on Netflix.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And this individual early on says, he fell in love with his wife and then it was everything else. It was all of the pressures of the house and the pool and the kids and that started being suffocating.
Because at its core, it's unconsensual, like lack of communication.
Yes.
At its core, it is an inability to communicate what you want.
Right. What you really want.
What you really want.
I think so many of us go to sex, and we're totally derailing this, because we are wanting, we have a human need. Emily Nagoski's new book, Come Together, we're working on in Hemlock. Shout out our monthly membership program. You can join us by going to sexedforyou.com/Hemlock. You can use Branch for first month free. And she says that when people want sex, they are wanting something. They are either wanting connection, they are wanting pleasure, they are wanting to feel desired, or they're wanting an escape from reality. And I think those are more interesting questions, right? I want to ask all of these people who got on Ashley Madison, what did you really want? Mm-hmm. Because that's valid.
Escape from reality.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah.
It literally feels like a little mini vacation.
And it brings you the same thing of what you've said a million times. Sex isn't something you do, it's somewhere you go.
What a gift.
Right?
We can do this in our bodies.
And imagine being able to do that with your partner.
With a partner.
With the person
or
that you love.
Imagine not choosing long-term partnership and instead choosing relational sexual relationships where you get to have this consensually.
Yes.
With other people, where you tell people, you know what, I'm not interested in that type of a model. I love that for you. I think it takes a lot of knowledge of self, which is what we hope to give you all with these questions today. But I really encourage anyone to do a little Google search of relationship escalator images and diagrams and infographics, because they're fascinating. We are the authors of our own stories. And we have dear friends right now who've been together and living together for a long time and have just chosen to live in separate spaces for a year to see what it's like before they move into it. You and I literally celebrated when we heard this news, and it is worth celebrating.
It literally lit up my body. I was so excited for them. And I think it was so funny to watch Trey, who was
still talking about our reaction.
Terrified. He was terrified. He was he looked horrified. I've never seen it. Every ounce of blood drained from his body. And you and I are like, yeah, because
I said in bed that night, why did you choose cheer?
Really?
He said, you didn't have all the facts yet. Why did you cheer? Why did you cheer?
I cheered because I champion the idea of individuation within partnership, because I love that they are choosing to choose themselves, and that they are so loving of each other that they want that for the other as well. Yes. And they are doing this with the hope that this partnership is what they want forever. And this is the best way to make that choice for them.
I sit with so many couples or an individual who's part of a partnership, and they'll tell me, I don't want to leave yet. I need a reason. And I'm always like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, they haven't really done anything. I just have this feeling. Why is your feeling not enough? Why is this deep knowing, this wisdom of our bones, not enough? Why do we need to make someone else the villain? Why do we need to trap them in a corner? Why do we need to wait for the bad thing if there is a catch in our souls? And then I'd love to go to the other way, is that I think sometimes we do it the other way. Things are going great, and we're so uncomfortable with the positivity that we sabotage there.
And delineating between the two.
But if we have this, I need to check something out, right? I think I need to take a pause and really check on this, because my soul is saying it and I don't know why. My sacral, right? There's so often we often just want this head wisdom. I want to know, I want to have mental clarity, all these things. Sometimes it doesn't have it, y'all. And human design has really helped me with that, because I am a sacral generator. Everything feels like or And sometimes it frustrates the living daylights out of the people in my life. That they'll be like, why does she have so much energy for this, but she couldn't do that? Yeah. I'm like, I can't tell you why. All I know is that my body's like this. And I want us all to listen to that so much more. And so I was cheering because they listened to that. Okay. People don't often do the thing they know they need to do before it's bad. And so then we lose relationship in the world.
Yes. It's like proactive treatment is what I literally feel like from a health perspective. Yep. I'm like, you're giving yourself proactive treatment, preventative treatment. You're taking probiotic yogurt, baby. This is what that is to me. Yeah. Good fucking job for being so brave to step out of the social construct that we have created for ourselves and saying, no, this is what we should do. This is what is best for both of us. Yeah. beautiful and incredible and so brave.
Yep. So anyway, again, we had on the car ride to these friends, Holland had brought up this friend that is considering, what should I say in this partnership? I had off the top of my head written some journal prompts, which we'll pull up and read to you. And then we get to these friends and they tell us this. It's like everything around us.
Everything's aligning.
It's speaking all the things. And then this sex and psychology podcast talking about the same thing. We get agency.
We do.
And we have the power of informed decision making. And I hope these questions that we kind of jump into are helpful.
Yeah.
Should I pull them up?
Yes, please.
Okay. So as I was sitting in the car,
yeah, give us the background of these
thinking
questions.
of these. What's really funny is Holland was like, do you want to write some journal prompts? And I'd just been working all day. It would have made more sense for me to be like, no.
I know, I felt
But
really
no,
bad.
but she knows how my brain works. And I swear I could write journal prompts in my sleep. It's something about, again, my human design of taking this and making this. There's a word in the human design, but that's how my brain works. And so, yeah.
It's like funneling.
Yeah. So y'all, you can always work with an individual sexuality educator. I
Just
love doing
find
this for my
yourself a funnel.
clients. It's, they know this, they get journal prompts on everything. They'll bring something up in session and I'm like, that's going to be a journal prompt. And they're like, yeah. All right. So you had presented, give me the case study again. I know you just talked about it a little bit, but
100%.
give me, okay.
So case study is friend who's in their early 20s, 24, 25, dating someone who's in their early 20s also, I'm assuming. And they just have had a lot of conversations. They've been in relationship. It is one of the healthiest relationships I've seen this person in. They seem to be really great partners to each other. They have moved to the same city far away from where they're both originally from. So they've both moved to the East Coast, and have begun really, really considering marriage as their next step and their next option. And the person that I know just wanted to, just kind of has, that feeling and wants to know whether it's the feeling of, am I sabotaging a good thing, or is there something I need to check on? That's generally kind of what's going on.
Okay. I didn't even know all of that.
No, she didn't.
So what I started thinking was of Adrienne Marie Brown's Tools for Liberated Partnerships. And I even pulled them up and I thought, okay, I like some of these, but it's more like how to align on a partnership. And I was like, I want more individuation. This is really big to me right now. Then I pulled up some other ones that I had written for another client who was in like casual dating. So I pulled up some of those. And really at the core, like my core, I believe that partnership should feel easier than single expression. No matter how many partners are in your partnership, it should feel like there's two of us lifting this heavy thing together. And so that's what I always try to get out of these things is just what Helen just said. Is it easier? And you are experiencing positive affect intolerance. And so you're feeling things like contentment, joy, peace, patience, pride, and you're uncomfortable in it and your body's going to anxiety. Well, then that's cool. We can push into that by some of these prompts. Or is it that things really are hard? And either way, it's okay to look at. It's just okay to look at. So these are some of the things I wrote down. Does your partner have a clear purpose in life? If so, what is it? I think oftentimes, Holland and I obsess about this. We talk about it every time on the podcast. The frontal lobe, your brain is still developing till 25-ish. That is, excuse me, oftentimes where someone's clear purpose and mission are developing. And sometimes we can think, like, I know them. I've known them since I was 18. I know them since they're 21. We often like hold a partner back. And so I really did want to start in with, what's your partner's mission, purpose? What are they craving and driven to? Because that matters. And our love for, admiration for, I have been obsessing over admiration recently. It matters in long-term partnerships. And if we do not admire the people we are with, we are hurting them. And that has so little to do with them, so much to do with us. We talk about it all the time that people in male bodies, often the way they are genetically made develops later. They are maturing later. I love studying development. Sometimes people in male bodies don't find their purpose until 30, Plus, that is okay. That is celebrated in this space. And marrying someone and then spending years nagging at them, criticizing at them, not admiring them would be a disservice.
It really would. I think. I would also pair with this question, same thing, but reverse. What is your clear purpose in life? Because just knowing that is great to know. Maybe dig into that and ask your partner if they know what yours is too.
Because I think this is part of aligning your longings, is that if one has a clear mission and purpose to travel the world and to work in different coffee shops in every continent, you couldn't do that. Because it'd be too cold to some of the continents. In lots of countries, that's a beautiful thing to want to do, to experience various cultures and to realize that, this, little town that one lives in is not the only space. Great, but that might not align with somebody else's.
They're looking for coffee shops in Antarctica, and you're hoping for a long-term teaching position in Texas.
Yeah.
So, maybe let's consider.
Would we be holding each other back because of these dreams? And I always say that Trey is the most logical partnership I've ever chosen. And I mean it. Do I adore the fuck out of that man? Yes. But there was so much logic to it. I can't even explain. It makes logical sense. Yeah. And even as we look forward to the future, that's what we're still doing, is logically, how do we let you chase your purposes and passions and missions? How do we choose mine? It matters.
And as boring and terrible as it sounds, we see it all the time.
Oh.
And you see it in media too. I've been watching a lot of Schitt's Creek, but spoiler alert, I just watched Ted and Alexis break up. And it's so sad because you're like, even as a viewer, you're like, they're meant to be together. Like, they are incredible together, but he gets a job in the Galapagos and her PR job is taking off in this tiny town in wherever the hell they are, Schitt's Creek. And so it's logical. We see it. Longings must be aligned. It is a key part of relationship, whether it makes sense in every other way except the largest way possible. That's enough. That is enough to say that it is not going to work. As much as it hurts your heart, you will later look back and say that was right for both of us. We are the happiest we possibly ever could have been. One of us would have had to have sacrificed too much to be together.
It is okay to love someone so much
that you let them go.
That you let them go. And I wish with my whole fucking heart and soul that there were more pieces of literature, more movies, more sitcoms that celebrated this.
Me too.
Where you could run back into someone and not have second chance. What is Holland's thing?
Second chance, Sally.
Okay.
Why are we singing it now?
It's not a Notebook moment. It's not where you could see them and give them big hugs and say, I am so thankful for you. How are you? That's beautiful.
And that's real life.
Yes.
We see that in real life, but just executed poorly.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how. We don't have something to look at. But you and your ex-husband have done a wonderful job of that. And it took a lot of steps to get there.
So many. But it's stunning, right? It's like, oh, this is world healing shit.
It heals literally a part of me every time I think and see you two together.
Thank you.
It really does.
He came into our local pizza place last night while I was journaling, and I just thought, we didn't even say hi. I just heard his voice from across the room and just smiled and thought, I used to be intimately involved with that person. And my nervous system was not dysregulated. I was so joyful that he was in the space and happy he was having a dinner. And was thinking, where's our 13-year-old child? But she's fine. She loves being alone. And I just, yay. Not this whole, I got to get up and leave. Yeah. We're in the same place in the same town. There's so much more. There is so much more.
Yes.
And I would argue that if we don't truly prioritize, see, value the other person's missions and purposes, and we choose this, what we think is this loving thing, which is sacrificing ours for theirs, I sit with the people who are 10, 15, 20 years in the relationship resenting that original sacrifice.
Yep.
I am not saying that there will not be sacrifice in partnership. There will be. But this early on.
Self-sacrifice. Yeah. That is what we are talking about. Sacrificing a piece of you that is so intrinsic to who you are that it will break you to take it away. That is what you should not do for partnership.
And it turns into martyrdom, my friends. Yes. It turns into this whole, I'm a do-gooder, I'm a savior. This person needed me to do blah, blah, blah.
Unconsensual.
And then it becomes, it's so interesting. I've been really researching the sexualization circle on the circles of sexuality and the use of sex to control or manipulate another. In some versions of the circles, withholding sex, using sex's power to control is in there, which is something that I see so many Christian wives do because they have no other tool to wield. And I understand it. And yet my bigger question is, why the fuck did you sacrifice that much to begin with, baby? You have a body, you have autonomy, you have individuation apart from this person. And so I understand why now you are using sex to control. And wow, we could have done so much different at the beginning. So this is why I think mission and purpose are so important.
All right. So after that very lengthy explanation of the first question.
Yeah, we will not take that long.
We will be moving to the second question. The second question.
Let's skip down because it's really the third one because we kind of comboed the first two.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Does your body become aroused when you're around your partner? If so, when?
I find this is an important question because I wanted to know. Did you know I had an ulterior motive with this one?
No, I didn't. I also didn't read all of these, and this is new, so I'm excited to hear your explanation.
Did you send them to her or no?
Yes, okay. I did. I sent them and didn't read them. I said, I trust Lauren. Go.
Whoops. I was like, I'll edit these, so I'm not even going to really think about it. Oh, well. I wanted to know about 4 cornerstones of eroticism in this one. I wanted to know if this person gets most aroused when they are anxious or when they are at homeostasis.
Oh, I already know because I know this person so well.
So that's why I put this on here, is do you still get aroused around your partner? Yeah. Which is a beautiful thing. You know, I want healthy, thriving, consensual, free of coercion and violence and discrimination sex for all people. And do you feel most aroused after a fight? Do you feel most aroused when you are anxious about the health and well-being of your relationship? Do you feel most aroused when you are jealous? Or do you feel most aroused after a beautiful financial talk?
Ooh, sexy.
Yes, right? Do you feel most aroused after a walk down a trail holding hands, talking about that puppy and then the little kid? Do you feel most aroused after you work on a hard project together? Do you feel most aroused going dancing together, right? It doesn't need to be all like, I don't know, wholesome shit. No. Not at all. But I was curious. That's why I asked this question.
Yeah, that's a really good question because they were long distance for a long time.
Longing and anticipation.
Yeah, so I was like,
like, I'm very excited for our friends to live apart for a year.
Yeah, me too.
Because I wonder if it's going to zoop the sexual attraction.
I think so.
The you up type of text.
To you up somebody that you are in a relationship with. That's
fun.
That's the best thing you can do.
So fun. Okay, so then I went into, are your longings aligned with your partners, which is exactly kind of what we've already talked about. I don't think we need to
I agree.
beat that anymore. Do you have anything additional to add about that one?
Nope.
Does your partner seek to continually get to know you, or do they feel they already know you?
Ooh, especially in your early 20s.
See, and I knew they must be your age, but I didn't know their ages.
Because when you're still growing so much, if your partner is not willing to continually get to know you and like intentionally, I think this comes back to what we say, intentionally date your partner. Because even you and Trey find new things out about each other all the time. My parents, who've been together for 25 years, I think, like, they're still getting to know each other. There are still things. We are such intricate, nuanced, hella confusing human beings. Like, humans are not just face value. There is so much in there that you yourself probably don't even know about until someone asks you the question. There are so many memories in my little head that have been triggered, not in a bad way, by conversation, by music, by smells, by surroundings, by conversation and questions. this is how you get to know yourself and get to know your partner. And if they aren't asking you questions, if they aren't wanting to get to know you, if your dinners consist of, not that this is bad, but consist of just gossip and being on your phone or talking about work or talking about, I don't know, your kids, are you still getting to know each other?
I see it all the time. My sweet ex-husband that we were just talking about, when we were in our super unhealthy dating and engagement and married seasons, I remember once asking, like, could you just ask me some questions? Or like, I wanted to go on a date or on a walk. And he was like, but what did we talk about? And I was like, you could ask me questions. And he said, why would I ask you questions? I already know you. Oh, sweet man. Sweet man. He was just gay.
He just didn't care.
Just didn't care. It's fine. Now he does. It's so fascinating. Now he asks, now he's so healthy. It's so sad. And it is one of the number one things I see in long-term partnership. And y'all, it is downright scary when you are still developing. When I met my ex-husband, I was 18. We talked about this, I think, last time. And by the time I got married, I was 21. But I was rapidly becoming. And I like to say all the time that a self is not a static thing. It is always becoming. And my best friend and I will even ask questions. Sometimes we'll do like a walk or a dinner date, and we'll say, what's one thing about you that's changed since we've known each other? We've known each other 20 plus years. And then we'll say, like, what's one thing that's stayed the same? And then we'll just go back and forth with almost like reintroduction, right? If I was meeting you now, how would you introduce yourself to me? Because there is nothing that we could do that would be more harmful to a human being than to expect that they will never change.
Imagine implementing a practice of picking a random date of the year with a partner and saying, we're going to reintroduce ourselves every year on this day. Like, this is going to be a quote unquote first date. You could flush it out however you want. That just sounds really fun to me, to be like, let's make this day a day where we're strangers and we introduce ourselves to each other, and all that we've learned. We talk about what we've learned over the past year, our goals for the next year, et cetera, et cetera. Also, stemming off of this same question, it may already also be in here, but do you want to get to know your partner? Are you intrigued by your partner? Are you drawn to their energy and their knowledge and their wit or lack thereof, whatever you're drawn to about them? Is that active? Is that part of your relationship?
Right. Are you curious? And if not, that is a really good reason.
That's a really good reason.
And it could be done in humility too. Right? Like, this is on me. I'm realizing that I am no longer curious, and I have no desire to be curious. I want everyone to hear this is not how to keep a relate. Like, if you want to be out, you need to be out. You just need to listen to your own intuition.
If these things don't sound fun to you, to have these, to even ask yourself these questions,
that says something.
That says something. Everything says something, even if it's a lack of something.
If you wouldn't feel comfortable asking your partner some of these questions, that says something. I think that's further down on here. If you're sitting here like bristling at even these questions, that says something. Yeah. Do you feel seen and valued? If so, why? If not, why? You know, I wanted this to be kind of a prompt of, if you do, well, what makes you feel that way? Great. You know, if you don't, what makes you feel that way? Because I would hope that that would open the door either to have this conversation with a partner so that they can decide if it's something they're willing to provide or not.
I'll put the stick people up on the screen right now. Lauren has this beautiful drawing that I may have rejuvenated a little bit recently. Better now. And
oh my God, I wept. I was like, look, it looks so much better.
It was beautiful in the first place. I just added some pizzazz.
You just did. They look much more like cutesy.
Thank you.
This is Betty Martin, Wheel of Consent, you know, our favorite thing ever. And plus some zhuzhed by yours truly. I think that at all times we need to be asking ourselves, what do we want? And to do that, we need to notice, trust, and value what it is that we need, want, and desire. Then our job is to communicate the thing that we need, want, and desire to a human and tell them what it would provide for us. Then that human being, in all of their juicy agency, gets to say, am I willing to provide this thing?
And it starts with a will you or a may I question.
Yep.
That's how you identify, like, what are you asking? Are you asking if I can take? Are you asking for someone to give to you? And that is kind of what this whole diagram is showing you, is the way you can consensually communicate and ask for what you want within partnership.
It works for sex. It works for chores. It works for asking for a conversation.
My favorite is the car keys. Tell your car keys.
Oh, this is so perfect. Poor Trey. I grew up here in this tiny little town of Virginia, and I have always left keys in the car, and my wallet in my car unlocked. I often don't lock our front door. I don't know. I just don't find it very important. If someone wants to steal, they're going to steal, in my mind. And they might need it. I don't know. I've just always been fine with it. Meanwhile, my husband grew up in Los Angeles, California, where crime is very high, and would never think of doing such a thing in his entire life. So he moves here, we buy this house. He starts going, "Hun, like, do you think you could just bring your keys and your wallet in?" I'm like, "Sure." And he asked this several times, of which I kept forgetting. And finally he was like, "Babe, it's really starting to frustrate me. Can you please bring your keys and your wallet in?" And I went deep in my body, and I could feel the resentment, and I felt so micromanaged and controlled and frustrated. And then I remembered this tool. And so instead of being mean, I said, "Babe, what would it provide you with? If I brought my keys in from the car," you're asking a will you question. So obviously this would be an act of service for you. "What would it provide you with?" And his whole little body melted. And he was like, "Oh my goodness, a sense of peace, because one of my most important jobs in the world is to protect you and provide for you. And if your car is gone and you need to go somewhere important like to Roanoke, how are you going to do that? And if you don't have your wallet, how are you going to buy the things that you need? Or maybe you will need to get a rental and all of these things, or we're going to cancel your credit cards and you won't have money and you'll be unresourced and unsafe." And I was like, "Oh my goodness." I said, "If I brought my keys in, it provides you with peace like that?" He was like, "Oh my goodness, yes." It was the last time I forgot to bring my keys and wallet in.
And now there's an air tag on those bad boys.
Now there's an air tag. Now everybody knows. Everybody be like, "Did you bring keys and wallet in?" I think they're actually in the car right now because we're going to Roanoke. So please, everybody know this. Trey, don't watch this. I left everything in the car after workout because Holland and I were immediately getting back in. But now that I'm saying this, I feel really uncomfortable because I literally made a conscious choice. Leave it in the car because I had full arms. I'm sorry. I'm really good. That is like one of the only times if I'm going right back to the car. But it answered the what will it provide you with. Yes. And what that did in my soul was go, "Oh, I can do an act of service to provide my sweet partner with that."
Yes. It's a better way of asking why.
It's so cool.
Yes.
Because I care about him.
Yes.
I don't care about the keys and wallet. I don't need to. No. I literally don't need to. It doesn't, my value won't be for that. But guess what? I have a deeper value. And that is to provide peace in my partner's body. And that is fucking cool. That I can lay aside this silly trite thing of being micromanaged. And I don't have to value it. I don't even have to understand it.
And you could have negotiated.
100%.
So that's what these arrows going back and forth are. You could negotiate and say, "No, that really doesn't work for me. What if we get another car key? We can lock the car from inside the house. We keep that key inside. We lock it from in here. And all my stuff gets to stay in there. And then, that would work."
Perfect. We also did negotiate a piece where I said, "Yes, I will do that. And if I happen to forget and my car gets stolen or my wallet gets stolen, I assume full responsibility."
Right.
I remove that from your plate. I appreciate everything that you are saying. I need you to know that I assume responsibility.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful for him too. It still will provide him stress. I know it would still, anybody who knows, no, he would be so stressed. So anyway, we're not going to do that. Yes, he would be so stressed.
Yeah.
But we did negotiate a little bit where I said, "I will 100% try as hard as I can. And on the off chance that I forget, if it gets stolen, I assume full responsibility." And it was like, okay, that feels good to him. And
the first offer does not have to be the end all be all. That's what negotiation is for. And that is what these beautiful stick people teach us.
It is. And so then once I give the gift, right? Once he asked, I said, "Am I willing to provide this thing?" And I said, yes. And then the gift I give to my sweet partner is bringing my keys in from the car. He just gets to luxuriate in the gift. And I literally see it chill in his body. When he goes to get something, like go put something in my car and he goes, hey babe, where are your keys? And I say, in my purse or in the bowl. I can literally just feel in his body. And he gets to luxuriate it. And I think, I did that.
Good job, me.
That normal human thing. That's me. I did it.
I love it.
It's ridiculous, but it's so true.
Okay, the next question is probably one of my favorite questions on this list. I skimmed.
Okay, good.
And this one popped out to me. Are you the fullest version of yourself with your partner?
I like this one.
This question sat so deeply in my body because this is the one that pulled me out of a couple relationships. The most recent one that I know is on the top of your head. And then the one that, multiple. And yeah, what really, we've talked about it before. I think it was a few episodes ago. I'll find it and link it below where I go into more detail about like why. But the fullest version of yourself is it's a value you're allowed to have.
Yes.
It is something you are allowed to want with every bone in your body, even though you've been told your whole life it's selfish. You are allowed to strive solely for the purpose of pleasing and loving yourself. And relationships should facilitate that.
They should.
Period.
Just period.
No matter who you are, what religion you subscribe to, relationships should help you become the person you want to be.
And if you cannot do that in the partnership that you're in via traditional versus non-traditional, you should not be in this partnership.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple.
We see it in movies. We see it in TV shows. We see it in media. People who are not tainted, but like not able to reach their fullest potential or are being held back by life circumstances and relationships and things. And we're always screaming at the screen, stop it. Stop it. Be who you want to be. You're not that person. You're not a bad person. Don't do the bad thing. Don't be with the bad guy. Or don't be with the good guy. Hell, sometimes a bad guy's hotter. And you're like, oh, no.
It's interesting. They brought this up on the podcast that I was listening to earlier, and I so identified with something because I stayed in that first marriage for a decade, and I was not the fullest version of myself. And somehow I had convinced myself that failing my marriage was worse than the fragment of life that I was living. And so this is just a special shout out to anyone who's inside a dating partnership or a marriage partnership. That's bogus. You are not failing. It was not a failure for me to stand up and go, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've been enabling abuse for a decade. We're going to stop that now. That was not failing. And I think our culture so worships longevity to a fault. Right? These two were married for 55 years. Well, can you tell us the rest of the story, please? I am sure that some of these had loving, egalitarian partnerships. I am certain. I know that like my grandparents who were married for that many years, alcoholic abuse. My grandmother should have left his ass. Bankruptcy, horrifying things.
No fault divorce.
You
know, they're trying to take that away.
Yes.
In southern states right now, they are trying and may have successfully removed the ability to take yourself out of a marriage without cause, quote unquote. And you know who that traps?
Yeah, people like me, because I had a no-fault divorce.
Women.
Yeah.
Women and men, I'm sure, 100%. But mostly women.
It's ridiculous. Please ask yourself, are you living your fullest life inside of your partnership? Or are you worshiping this like stick-to-itness of like, oh, but marriage is hard, partnership is hard, dating is hard, relationships are hard. When I do sexual timelines with folks and I'm asking them about what they witnessed in their parents and their early dating relationships and stuff, I'll often do a prompt, a word association prompt, a fill in the blank. And I'll often say relationships are fill in the blank. And it just ends up in their journal prompts. And so many people write hard. Relationships are hard, messy, difficult, challenging. And I think, what are we modeling for the generations to come? 100% there are going to be hard conversations, hard growing periods, right? Jack Moran calls them rude awakenings. 100% we're going to be kind of like spiraling up at times and feel like uncomfortable. No.
But it's also, I always see these difficulties, these challenges as, are you working against the problem as a couple?
Yes.
Or are you working against each other?
Yes.
Because that it can be very telling of how your relationship is. Do you feel like you're fighting your partner or fighting a problem, an issue, something you're solving together? Because relationships should thrive on focusing outwardly, triangularly. Even in my little Christian grow up, whatever that means, raising, we were always taught that this triangle approach of it's you and your person and fighting the issue. Always.
It's a fantastic way of looking at things because it makes us curious. Back to my positive affect tolerance or intolerance. When we didn't grow up with a lot of peace and contentment and pride inside of our homes of origin, we can get to this point where then if we do experience it, then we're full of anxiety. And when that starts to creep in, it reduces our ability, this was so cool to read this research the other day, to think creatively, to think that we have as many options as we do. Oh, wow. But on the contrast, when we broaden our understanding of positivity, it increases our brain's understanding of all of the options, which is what I think we got to witness our friends do. They said, we have all the options. And they got off the fucking escalator. They just walked down the escalator and got off, right? Or they like stepped off on the floor.
They just paused.
Right? They just got off.
Taking a moment to consider.
Yeah.
Crazy how many things in life would change if we just took a moment to consider.
And I think to that, this worksheet that I have, I coach my clients through, well, what can we do to broaden and build, right? And so we can do a couple things. One is we can start to understand when we are appreciated in spaces and not, which is interesting to me. So, you know, if I was to give Holland a work compliment, if she could brush it off and be like, no, Lauren doesn't really mean that. Or she could accept it and breathe into it and be like, thank you. And the beauty is you like maintain eye contact with the person, you let it like sink into your heart and soul. And what it literally does is expand your own self-confidence and self-efficacy as being a human being. This is one of these broaden and build concepts. So if Holland is walking around like that, I am capable. Look at these beautiful things I do. Then she has an altercation with a partner that she's dating. They make her feel smaller. She goes, wow, that doesn't actually jive with what I know to be true about myself because it just broadened around my heart. Oh, I have options. I have options to allow other relationships in my life that treat me like this one. Versus when we're like this and a partner says something, we can't see the other way. We see hard as the good thing, right? When we are more comfortable with the negative affect, which is criticism and sadness and pain and fear and all of those things, that feels more normal to us. And so we'll just go to that. Just fascinating to think, oh my goodness, yes, we are supposed to be the fullest version of ourselves in partnership. And if we're not, we need to step off.
That was really beautiful.
Thank you. It made me cry.
Me too.
Yeah, like our friendships matter. Yeah. Our workplaces matter. Because if we're not being seen and valued in those, we're not going to believe it when a partner treats us poorly and we don't know why we won't leave. And then we just want the whole, and then we have social media, right? I experienced this when I didn't want everyone else to just judge my leaving, but they didn't know the whole story. Yep. And I also had no one in my life who was modeling this type of bravery for me. I just had the celebration of longevity. Wow. Fuck longevity.
That actually takes us really well into the next question, which is, does partnership feel like a lighter lift than single life? We've kind of touched on that throughout multiple questions.
It should. Again, like Holland said, there are going to be times where you're focused on a thing. Mm-hmm. Did you pick up Trey's stress at the end of the weekend? Could you feel his stress on Sunday? Yeah. Yes. I knew it was about something, but it was so cool because we went into that coffee shop and I said, like, hey, he was in line and I was like, hey, can you get me a such and such? And I said, I whispered in his ear something I thought was cute, like I'll pay you in a sexual favor or something. And he turns to me and goes, or you can pay me in actual cash.
Nope.
And I was like, oh.
okay.
Something's going on in my lover's body. That's not normal. And I was like, I'll just get him. And I was like, what do you want? And I'll be like, I'm going to pay for that. And so we came outside, and he immediately was like, babe, I'm so sorry for that. That was uncalled for. And what did I say? I said, I didn't even look at him, and I was like, that's okay. Something else must be going on below the surface. I said, do you want to talk about it? And he said, I need to be more resourced. And I said, totally fair. And then we all did kind of like separate things. My kid wanted to go into some random stops, which was so cute. And then I came back to him, and my body, I could feel it wanting to go to dysregulation. And I was like, And so I said, hey, babe, what can I provide for you right now? Like, I know you want to be more regulated, but what does your body need right now? Do you want space? Do you want touches? And sweetheart was able to say, you know what, touches would be really good. I was like, oh, wonderful. So we weren't at peace. Like, we weren't at homeostasis. We knew we had a problem to solve, but it didn't need to be the end of the world. Like, now was not the time to solve it. And something in my body was like, yeah, but we're really great teammates, and we can solve this. I don't know really what it is and what the root is. And yeah, later that night we talked about it. And yeah, I'd heard his feelings completely separately to something else. And I got to take ownership and accountability for that. It was beautiful. And I thought, yeah, that's what people need to be modeled.
Yes.
Is that we don't need, hard doesn't need to be like fighting at each other.
No.
And he took accountability for the mean words right away. Like, that's not okay.
We've all said things that we don't mean.
Oh my God.
I hate when people have this concept that if you say it, you really mean it.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
no.
I do give a lot of value to words, 100%. And I do not mean to undermine that. But I also know that when we are under-resourced, when we're tired, we're not sleeping in our own beds, when we've had alcohol, when we're dancing all night, when we're doing things.
We had a good time.
We had a great time. But the next day, you're fucking hungover,
we
dude.
were all
You're
so tired.
exhausted.
We've been dancing
Trey and I are,
till 2 a.m.
Yes, and
You
Trey and
little
I are projectors. We only have so much energy. If I am low energy, I also am premenstrual right now. I could say some of the cruelest shit you've never even thought of in your life, and I would not mean it, not a word of it. I'm just frustrated and tired, and I want some cuddles. Okay? So, no, every word that comes out of your mouth, every word that comes out of your partner's mouth is not tried and true what they mean in their soul. And I think we take it a little bit too hard sometimes. Like, we get our feelings hurt, which is so fair and so valid. But to then take this approach of, okay, now is not the time to have this conversation. Let's get some snackies. Like, this is what we mean by fighting the issue, not fighting each other. Because it is sometimes going to be one partner's fault. Or the other partner's fault. But we're working against it.
Yeah. I got to apologize
and then Trey
for
said
it.
shitty words.
And
so it's both of your fault.
And he took accountability for those words.
Exactly.
Immediately was like, I shouldn't have done that. And I just thought, yeah, this is crazy town. We all need more of this, like, exemplified all the time. Because we came home, we didn't even talk about it as soon as we got home. I took a bath. I watched something on my own. Oh, Challengers.
Oh my God, I want to watch that so bad.
Yeah, we didn't have a whole episode on it. Coming soon.
Coming soon, Challengers.
And yeah, we didn't talk till like much later that night. And it was beautiful and teary and lovely. And then we talked about it again yesterday. I don't ever believe that one conversation needs to be the only conversation. That leads us into the next question, which is perfectly timed. How comfortable do you feel communicating with your partner about finances, sex, dreams, households, responsibilities, etc.? This was a finances thing.
Politics would be one too.
Politics would be great. But this was finances, and money and household chores are one of the top 2 reasons that people divorce.
Yeah. I still remember your dishes podcast from back when I didn't know y'all. There was 2 parts. It was that intense.
Dishgate. It was ridiculous. And I understand it, though, because we've got people with gendered roles who are resenting the gendered roles. And we have people who like a clean house, people who like a messy house. So much. But this was a finances thing. And also people who've watched or listened to the Partnership Podcast know that money used to be a super hard thing for me to talk about. And I'm really healing in alignment with it. And I never have felt it as clearly as this conversation. And it was wild because we were having some of the same exact conversations we've had before. And I was just not even shaken. Maybe it was where I am in my cycle too, but I really don't think so. I think I saw oh, he is asking this because we've had some fascinating conversations about what does money mean to you. And it's me who believes money is my worth. It's not him. He is not saying that. That is a deep intrinsic value that I attached to money a long time ago. No, he just had questions, and it was beautiful.
And it's an awkward conversation to
It
have.
is.
It's really uncomfortable. I remember in one of my first really serious relationships, he came up to me and he was like, just out of the blue, was like, by the way, I do have student loans. And I was like, great. Okay. And that's kind of how these conversations start. It's not like there's no natural time in a relationship to have a financial conversation, but they're important to have. And
So
sometimes they
important,
just come up.
especially if you're going to legally go down the road of marriage. And I need all of our young people to be listening.
Please.
When you connect yourself legally, you're also taking on the debt of someone. You are. And we have got to be more transparent about these things. My sweet, precious stepmother had, oh my goodness, men destroy her credit, destroy her financially. Atrocious. So like, that's another reason not to step on the fucking escalator. Like, if someone's got debt, just be like cohabitators if you want to. You don't have to. You can call each other husband and wife. Guess what? It's your own life. You can do whatever. But if you don't want that person's debt, it's okay.
You can get married in front of God and not get married by government.
Trey and I do not have joint checking accounts. Like, it is okay to do things your own way. Remember, you're not property, neither party.
But you gotta fucking talk about it.
You have to. And if you don't feel comfortable and you're considering long-term partnership with this person, pause. Haha. My family is saying this all the time because apparently that has to do with like sexual innuendo and sexual content.
Anyway,
saying pause.
moving on.
I don't know. They say it all the time.
Yes, having these financial and having these household responsibility conversations, political, I think is super, especially in the climate that we're in now. Very important conversations to have. If they're uncomfortable, they're going to be uncomfortable. But if you feel comfortable in that uncomfortability with your partner, that's a really good sign. So, anyway, next question.
Yeah, I know. We'll make it through this at some point. Why are you with your partner?
Why are you with your partner?
Sounds pretty basic, but I like to know the answer to that question. Why?
What does it sound like? What do people typically go to? Give me some.
Because I like how they make me feel.
So they like what is being provided for them.
Which I think is an interesting thing because it gets into codependency a little bit. So then it allows us to extrapolate out individuation. Again, I love, and holistic psychologist posted something about this the other day, that if both partners are regulated, co-regulation can happen, and literally cortisol can lower, literally sleepy hormones can rise. She literally said you might feel sleepy around a healthy partner because you just want to go to sleep. I smiled that all three of us, my kid, you and I, all fell asleep in the car coming home. Yeah. And I thought to myself, that's because our nervous systems were all comfortable enough to do so. That's cool. So I don't think I like the way they make me feel is a bad thing. I just think I'm obsessed with admiration right now, that I just always look for, oh my God, because I admire them so much. Because life feels so easy and joyous and playful, whatever your values are. Like I think, we've done podcasts on values before, I think. And if this person makes you feel more aligned with your values, that's fucking cool. If you love their values, I always say, again, I know Trey is my literal example. I love his habits. I freaking adore his habits. They make me smile. We spend so many days laughing.
I love Trey's
his
habits.
Like singing in the basement.
His singing in the basement, his little toe spreaders.
It is, the man has so many little idiosyncrasies that are precious to me.
They're beautiful.
I think if we are obsessed and have so much admiration for our partner's idiosyncrasies, you're in a good place, because those are the things that are going to far outlast how they make you feel.
Right.
Like, not everybody is going to be as independent in relationships. I work with lots of clients who love to spend like so much time together. They will still tell me the healthiest of partnerships that they love, each other's things, quirks.
I have seen on many a social media platform, many an influencer, many a podcast, people saying the things that initially made you fall in love with your partner are the things that turn into your icks with them. And I think this is a beautiful way of saying, if you don't actually find those things adorable, as in like adoration, if you don't find their idiosyncrasies, their little weird quirks truly like deeply in your bones attractive, valuable, admirable, that's when you should be concerned.
Absolutely.
Because Trey's toe spreaders are a little weird. Would probably turn into an ick for me because I think it's funny weird. You, however,
I know that it's connected to his constant pursuit of health and wellness in his body.
Exactly. That is the difference.
And so it's like hilarious and wonderful to me because it's right here. And he does not let his pursuit of these things go into telling me what I should do with my body.
Yes.
I think that would be a no-go for me. If I was constantly being coached up, told what I should or shouldn't eat, not expected to do the research of what's best for my body, that would drive me fucking insane. Emily Nagoski talks about this in Come Together. Shout out Hemlock again. You should join us because we're going to be talking about this because I love that she said it. She said that, the same to this point that you just made, the part of her that makes her the best, like loves to write books and is a really good book writer who can zone in and spend 6 hours a day just viciously writing, researching, yada, yada, is the same part of her who can absolutely not hear her partner when he's trying to talk to her. She said that he will sometimes do a thing where he sees how many things, wild and crazy things he can say before she actually pays attention. And one time he said, "Do you think they serve ice cream on pizza at such and such?" And she has no recollection of him saying this. And she's like, "You didn't actually say that." He's like, "I just said that. And you were so focused." Her ability to hyperfixate and neurodiversity is so helpful here. It makes her the author that we know and love and respect. It also can make her husband feel incredibly unheard. And so what they've chosen to do, and she talks about this in her book of the different places to go to in these, they've chosen to go to laughter, curiosity, playfulness. So they'll come up with a joke and they lovingly, playfully move her out of that space. But I call it a double-edged sword, two sides of a coin. They are the same thing. It is me who has left my sunroof open on too many cars than I can even count. It is the same person in me who is this dreamer and this creative. Holland is always saying, like, I think I can bend time. I really do think I can bend time, like with my whole soul. Yep. It is the person in me who believes she can create things. I like literally know I can. We can't, those two cannot divide. I have to be the person who believes that anything is possible because that's what makes me build things. And I am not a good partner for everybody though, because, oh my God, I like drive them crazy.
And it's finding the beautiful dichotomy of a partner who can appreciate the loving and beautiful side of that and also not tolerate, but what is a better word for understand the flip side of it and is willing to work with you to make that operational within your relationship. Yep. Because it is a double-edged sword. With every ability to do something beautiful and creative and fantastic comes the flip side of it. It is the light and the dark. It is the yin and the yang. It is what we as humans are. And finding a way to fully and totally love that dynamic is important within relationship. So Trey's toe spreaders are truly a lovely side of his health and wellness. And I love that for him.
They're not everybody's.
Not everybody.
It disgusts my kid. I she can't handle it. I'm like, that's so funny. It does nothing in my body. That's fascinating. Yeah. His, the same part of him that is committed to excellence is the part of him that gets critical. That has been, and again, it's not tolerate, it's understand and then say, hey, this is what is painful. right? We cannot go to this because that wounds my soul.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that we can go to? What are some routes that we can take that allow you to be human?
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, we all fuck up. We say things that we
Yes.
don't mean to say. But yeah.
And we don't want to take away from the loveliness that is the superpower.
Exactly.
But you have to take both edges of it. You have to understand that
100%.
double-edged sword, because you can't just take away this vital component of a human.
Nope.
You really can't.
So finding healthy ways to channel that. Are they interested in sitting with those both sides of the coin? Can they admit that they exist? Right? I think that didn't make it on here, right? But does your partner understand their shadows and their weaknesses? And I think it moves in to help. Yeah. We'll kind of skip down. Does your partner seek outside help for challenges and support, etc.?
yeah.
Because I think early on in my partnership with Trey, the criticism could get bad. His tallying is what he calls it, right? And it's just been so beautiful to watch him work with this colleague of mine, because his ability to call it out of what it is,
Right.
fascinating. Even with this finance conversation that we had, I had like 4 tallies against me, and I was able to say like, wow, look at us. We made it. Like, that's a lot less than in times before. And this has only been happening, look at us, for like 48 hours. Wow. And cool. Okay. It's not perfect by any means. That still felt like shit because I can feel all those things tallied against me. But thank you. And what I really wanted to look at was, how could I be a partner who is a safe space for him to come and share the feeling that he was feeling, which was an ouch. Like,
Yeah.
you really had an ouchie
Yeah.
back there. Was then his tendency to go to tallying and criticism and all this. No, great. It's a coping mechanism. And I don't have to stand for that. But I could hear the ouch. And that was fun. But he only knew how to articulate all of that because of outside support. His job, we say it a million times on this podcast. There's his work, there's my work, there's our work. Or there's your work, there's their work, there's your together work. And not my job to figure out how his brain works to solve these things. Yes. Nope. That'll destroy a partnership. A partnership who thinks they need to become insular and it's us against the world and we're all alone and no one understands us. No, that'll ruin you.
Not quite.
Like, no, I love that Holland's friend reached out and was like, hey, what'd you suggest?
Yeah.
Yeah, know the people. Brene Brown calls it her square squad.
Right.
Have those people. Not a lot of people.
No, but those.
Like a little square. Like a 1-inch square is what she
Yes.
says. To draw on a piece of paper 1 inch and put in the names of people who you are interested in receiving feedback from. And then other people are going to get feedback your whole life
And it can
long.
be on different topics.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? I
Yes.
mean, we've had this conversation about our circles, about who do you go to for this specific thing. For example, when Ollie passed away, I went to my friend who's a vet tech.
Yep.
Okay? Like draw the lines.
Your
They're
hair.
there.
When you got your hair dyed.
Yes. I knew
similar
not
things.
to go to the person that I accidentally went to the wrong person and told them I was getting my hair done. And they were like, ew. And I was like, oh, wrong choice.
Yes. Right? Versus, I mean, I loved what our friends did when they were telling us about this year of separateness. They said, you guys are the third group we're telling. And they have strategically told certain people and not told others.
Yes.
We get to do that. That's the difference between secrecy and privacy.
Correct.
You are entitled to privacy. It's not a secret.
Yep.
But yeah, bring people in who you really can trust. And it doesn't need to be a professional.
No.
It can truly be someone you admire. It could be a podcast. It could be
Yeah.
a YouTuber that you're like, ooh, you know what? I wonder what a trusted voice on this matter is.
It could be a book.
I revisit books all the
It
time.
could be Dirty Dancing. Okay. If you want, like, it just.
You're going to love. There's this part in Come Together where she talks about using story to help us understand, using Lord of the Rings, using Moana, because our brains need story and fantasy to make sense of this hard reality sometimes.
Yes.
And I was like, Holland is going to squeal because this is her absolute truth, is that sometimes this is too hard.
Yes.
So yes, go to your favorite heroine in a story and say, what would Hermione do?
Yes.
That is not a problem. That is a great tool.
It's beautiful. It's problem solving and creativity.
Yes. So
and it's lovely.
Does your partner use Harry Potter? I literally don't care, but I also in this question wanted to get to sometimes in long-term partnership, we'll start to like literally like vampire. We will suck the life out of our partner. Like they need to have the solution.
Yeah.
And we can end up suffocating them.
Right.
And literally, I used to watch this with breastfeeding mothers. Like they would become like suckled dry when they had not gotten enough rest and nutrients and they were still breastfeeding their 4-year-old. And I extended breastfeeding can be great. But what I continued to see is these women who just gave of themselves till there was nothing left.
Yes.
It's not healthy inside a partnership and it's not healthy inside of parenthood. And if you are planning to someday have children with these people, no, stop.
Because what this question, is really telling you is, are they able to creatively solve problems?
Yeah.
Are they able to draw on others and draw from everything that they can to solve issues? And that's a really important part of partnership.
Let's wrap up on this one because some of the others we've kind of hit on accidentally, and we'll put the full list. We'll make it a download.
We will.
Does your partner respect your boundaries? And do they know what they are? Also could be, do you know what they are? The reason I put this in is I find it so important to know your own boundaries with inside a partnership. Sure, could we grant blanket consent for something and then revoke it? Yeah, like could it be like, I think if Trey walked in here right now and gave me a kiss on the forehead, I'd be fine in the middle of this podcast. That would not be fun. But like,
that's boundary.
It's boundary. I think it's really important. I have so many clients that I see now in long-term partnerships where somebody been bursting through a boundary for years. And they didn't know it was there. And I get both people on the couch and I share this and they go, oh my goodness, I never knew. And it breaks my heart. And y'all, that's not, our partners are not supposed to be mind readers.
No, and this goes back to our stick people.
It
goes back to stick people. Because if you can't communicate your boundary and you are frustrated with a partner who is continually crossing your boundary, it is your job to communicate your boundary. To know yourself.
One of my colleagues posted something about this yesterday about, sometimes boundaries are crossed by another. Sometimes we cross our own boundaries by overextending ourselves. Sometimes I will have a couple on the couch and it'll be like, well, I do this and this and this and this for him. And then he'll look at me and say, I never asked her. I never asked her to do any of that. You are crossing your own boundaries, honey.
Yep.
Stop it. Like literally just stop it and then start asking for more help.
Renegotiate.
And if you don't feel comfortable inside of this partnership, that's a deeper question.
It's a deeper question.
Then maybe you need to step aside, step off the escalator. I understand that sometimes we can feel like, oh my goodness, I need a fresh start. But I will tell you, Holland and I say this all the time, you're just going with you to the new partnership. So might as well start practicing now. Like I tell my clients, they're either a good person, like either you chose a good person or they're a motherfucker.
Two options.
That's really simple. Either they're interested in growing and hearing your will you or may I question, in negotiating with you, of hearing and like expanding. One of my best friends the other day sent a text to a person she went on a date with and said like this were like, hey, FYI, blah, 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 blah. And he immediately wrote back, and this is like a 30-year-old guy. Wow. Oh my God, I am so sorry. Thank you so much for telling me all of this. You are exactly right. And just took accountability and ownership. And she was like, I don't think I'm ever going to go out with him again, but wow, was it lovely.
And it's the opportunity to own up to mistakes.
It was just beautiful.
And I love that they're a good person or they're a motherfucker. It's not they're a good person or they're a bad person. It's a good person or somebody who's not going to work out for you. Yeah. That's okay. We just call it a motherfucker because it's fun. But like genuinely...
I just think we rob people of agency so much, which is why I say that.
Of the opportunity to change.
And so many people, and this is, we talk about this a ton in the sexuality field, of this absolutism of someone is bad, right? We put someone in jail and then we don't allow them to restore themselves into right relationship and communities. And that's a shame on us, right? This is this very white American way of doing things. And I am sorry, but it extends so much to other things.
It really does.
We have to give humans a way back in. And it doesn't need to be with us. It doesn't need to be. And they could not be a safe person for us. But we need to start saying, whoa, what if someone did want to grow am I robbing them of the opportunity? It's okay to ouch. No, that's not okay with me. Then they say, oh my God, my bad. What could I have done differently? And you say this, and they say, thank you for telling me. I understand if I'm no longer a safe person to be in a relationship with you. And you go, yeah, you're not because of trauma and how it's stored in my body, but do better. And you say, mwah, bye.
Yes.
And then go on to not perpetuate the same harm.
Yes. We cannot expect reformation when we don't give people the opportunity to change. We cannot expect change in a society where we glorify stagnancy and the status quo that has been established by hundreds of old white men hundreds of years ago. Okay, so this change, this perpetuating societal change and desire for difference starts with you. It starts with your partnerships. It starts with your relationships, your parenthood, your friendships, your interactions at the coffee shop and the pizza shop. It starts with how you interact with life. That is how we make these changes.
And I think things like cancel culture and social media and these are red flags in partnership and all of these clickbaity things, which is the perfect wrap up. This is how we started. Give us a piece of the story,
Yes.
not the whole thing.
No.
And so please take these journal prompts, make them your own, go deeper on a dive, do more of a YouTube search on something that sparked your interest here, get some of the books that we recommend, join something like Hemlock, do work.
Zoom out.
Yeah.
I always, if you're feeling stuck in a problem, I encourage you to take the bird's eye view. Pretend you're not you. Zoom out. What is the bigger problem? What is the bigger issue? What are we really, truly, deeply dealing with here?
I used to call in and hear this all the time. I'm like, pretend it's not you or pretend it's not this. How would you solve this problem? And it's fascinating to hear people's feedback. Yeah, takes us out, takes feelings out of the equation, it's like, oh my goodness, no, this is the more creative thing. And again, if you need to broaden and build your capacity to sit with pleasant things, right? Start noticing other places in your life that you feel pleasant things. Or start a gratitude journal. Do these practices that expand your own tolerance for positivity so that you can remember you have more choices. Thank you for coming to this very lengthy episode of Sex Ed for You, where research meets reality with Lauren and Holland. Again, these are our opinions and just our opinions. Do we do research? Fuck yes. But you deserve to do your own. You are entitled to self-determination and you have a right to informed decision making. Please take what you like, leave the rest from this.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can go to
at sex_ed_for_you. And we will also have the downloadable worksheet on our website. The link is below. Use code NUANCE to get this for free. For freezies. Go get it.
If you want to work with someone, it's interesting. In Emily Nagoski's new book, Come Together, shout out Hemlock again, she talks about the stages of change. I even took a picture of it. Some of us are contemplating change, then we're preparing for change, then we are actively seeking change. And we sometimes feel stuck, and it is a great time to bring in a professional. If you are looking to work with a professional, I would love to work with you, especially if you just listen to this whole podcast, because you're our type of person.
That's commitment.
Go to sexedforyou.com/free consult. Tell Holland why you want to work together. We've been talking about this ad nauseum, Holland and I recently, but my goal truly is not to work with you forever. My goal is to equip you with tools to realize what is inherently yours.
We work towards goals.
I am committed to being a sexuality educator, not a sex therapist. I love helping my clients remember who they've always been and helping them reclaim and reaccess what has always been theirs. So if you're looking for something like that, I'd love to work with you.
Go to sexedforyou.com/free consult and you can request one. And you can pick any time that works for you.
It's 15 minutes. It's fun. If we're not a good fit, I will tell you
Totally
about
fine.
different colleagues of mine who might be
and
better.
there's no pressure to book after that. This is a beautiful opportunity for you to just get one-on-one time with Lauren to see if working together would be great.
Yeah.
This is not really a time to ask for direct advice. This is not really a time
Please don't do that.
to ask for just advice or anything like that in general. This is a time to see if you work well together, and there is no pressure to book afterwards.
Lots of people pop on and they say, hey, this is my story. Have you ever worked with someone like me before?
Right.
Or this is my story. Is this something you could help me with? Or, hey, I've done this. So many people say, hey, in traditional therapy, I don't feel comfortable talking about sexuality with my therapist. Can we work in addition to my therapy? Yes. It's my favorite because it's a triad approach and you are in another form of care, and it's so beautiful with my form of education. So anyway, go have a lovely day. We're going to go be on a TV segment.
Heck yeah.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you later. Thank you for your support. Goodbye.
Like, subscribe, all the sexy stuff.